Tonight, the techno king of Tesla and imperator of Mars is guest hosting SNL. A lot of people in Cardano are kind of probably dreading this happening because there's a good chance Elon's gonna further expose the mainstream to Dogecoin. I think there might be a silver lining to this, but I also have a bit of a conspiracy theory as to why I think Elon might really be doing this. Get ready. Let's go. I am back from my sojourn into the wild lands with no internet access. Thank you, everyone, for your patience with my absence from the comments section. But we're back to normal now, and let's jump right into our discussion of this Doge Moon Mania business. This episode of Saturday Night Live tonight might be a new height for Doge Moon Mania. I mean that more as sort of a cultural artifact than I do in terms of market price, right? Who knows what the market's going to do with this? And a lot of people in not just Cardano, but all over crypto are dreading this. And every time Elon tweets about Doge, they hate it. Here's why I think it's really happening. First, let's talk about the conspiracy theory. Then we'll talk about the silver lining. So here's the conspiracy theory. I think he is altruistic in the sense that he really, really cares about making humanity an interplanetary species. He wants us to be a space voyaging species. And I think for altruistic reasons. I think he's genuinely afraid of mass depopulation. And he knows that we're polluting the earth, we're running out of fossil fuel, which is polluting the earth anyways. Maybe we can't sustain ourselves on Earth. All these reasons are why he created electric vehicles and why he's interested in solar energy with Tesla Solar and why SpaceX is, attempting the long-term goal of sending humans to Mars and establishing a human colony on Mars. But while I was in the wilds, I saw something in the night sky and took a picture of it with my phone that led to a little bit of an epiphany about the imperator of Mars. And you're about to see that photo. So I was sitting there in the dark. And when I say dark, I mean really dark. One of those places where you look up at the night sky and you remember how beautiful the stars are when you can actually see them without the light pollution. And I noticed what you're looking at. And I know it looks faint on this picture, but imagine this but like 100 times brighter, and they're moving really fast. So fast, it is immediately apparent this is not natural. So for a split second in my mind, I thought this is one of two things. This is either something human-made or these are alien starships coming down to invade Earth. So that lasted a split second. And a split second later, I realized this has got to be Starlink. These have got to be some kind of Starlink satellites. There's no way this is natural. And the only person who could have done this is Elon. 20 years ago, I would have been like, this is some kind of NASA thing. Today, I say to myself, this is Elon who did this. So here's where the epiphany part came in. As soon as I saw this, I immediately knew that certain types of people were going to be super pissed about this, right? Because you look at this and you're really struck with the fact that if you're in a dark place where you can actually see this well, you're really struck by the fact that probably one of the most beautiful things you could look at as, let's say, like a Paleolithic human, some human before we had all these, screens and the internet and movies and television, all this crazy stuff we have today. Probably the night sky was one of the most beautiful things that you would see. And all humankind probably shared that to some degree. Like all humans probably looked at that night sky and saw this. I mean, it's like a feature of the human experience looking at this night sky until we have all this light pollution from the cities, right? But for most of human existence, this was like a universal thing for all humans. So a lot of people are going to be pissed that a corporation unilaterally changed this, right? And what we also know is that Elon is very smart, and there are a huge number of very smart people he's hired. at Tesla and Starlink and SpaceX, uh, they knew this would happen. They knew people would be pissed. And the epiphany was Elon was willing to make that sacrifice. He was willing to let people be pissed so that he could continue this march forward for an altruistic good, providing internet to the whole world. The idea behind, this whole Starlink thing. And the same is true. The same is true for his trying to get everybody behind going to Mars. So next we need to ask ourselves, what is required for us to go? If that's his altruistic goal, that he will make many different sacrifices for to make happen, what does he think? What does he think is necessary for us to go to Mars? Well, let's let the man himself tell us with this tweet. He said, public support for life on Mars is critical to making it happen. So now I ask myself, okay, in that context, when he knows he needs to get everybody behind this Mars thing, and maybe not everybody is behind this Mars thing currently, what does he need to do, right? He needs for everybody to trust him. And I think that's where this Dogecoin thing comes in a weird way. So if you ask yourself, okay, who would you trust? Who would you trust? What would be the ultimate person you would trust? You would trust the greatest innovator of your era, right? And if I ask myself, who are the greatest innovators of our era? Two names come to mind: Elon Musk and Satoshi Nakamoto, right? When Elon goes to bed at night and he thinks like, I want to achieve my altruistic goal. And I'm intentionally not saying this is just an ego thing. I'm intentionally saying this is not just an ego thing. And him wanting to be known as the greatest innovator of his era just for egotistical reasons. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and say it's because he needs everyone to trust him, so that we'll actually give him the public support to go to Mars, right? But to be the ultimate most trusted guy, it would be helpful to be known as the greatest innovator of your era. He has this great competitor in Satoshi Nakamoto, though. I mean, right now, if you ask me who's the greatest innovator, I'm probably going to say Satoshi Nakamoto, even though I love Elon. I love everything he's done, and I believe he really does have altruistic motives. But he needs to be known as the greatest innovator of his era. And as long as crypto is as beloved by smart people as it is today, that maybe is not going to be the case. He won't be known as the greatest innovator. It'll be Satoshi Nakamoto. And it's really hard to discredit Satoshi, because all we know about Satoshi, beyond his British spelling and his choice of programming languages, is the white paper, is Bitcoin, right? But if you're Elon and you wanted to, just like put a question mark around, is crypto that awesome in the short term, at least? Maybe what you do is you get behind the crypto that was made as a joke to make fun of crypto. And that's where this video comes in. So in this video, Elon is, signing autographs, and one of the paparazzo, I think that's the right singular, paparazzo. You guys tell me if I'm completely up in the night on that. But one of the paparazzo asks him, hey, Elon, is it a problem for Doge that it doesn't have a hard cap? And Elon says, yes. And then he thinks about it, and he tries to come back with some reason why it's okay that Doge is completely inflationary. And the only thing he can come up with, as much of a genius as he is, the only thing he can come up with is, hey, fate loves irony. Doge was a joke to make fun of cryptos. So when I was picking a crypto, I figured that was a good way to make my choice, right? Which is not very persuasive. It's not very persuasive that that's really why he chose Doge. So what I'm proposing is his biggest competitor as far as greatest innovator of our era is Satoshi Nakamoto. And it's very difficult to discredit Satoshi Nakamoto because we don't know anything about him. But if you were trying to just chip away at that in some small way, chip away at Satoshi's legacy in some small way, getting behind Doge is a great way to do that. It's maybe one of the only ways you could even chip away a tiny bit at Satoshi's legacy. It has no hard cap, right? So it's not disinflationary. It won't do the main thing that brought a lot of us into crypto, right? A better money, a harder money, a money that can't be manipulated. It doesn't do those things, right? So if you're Elon and you're like, man, Satoshi might be the greatest innovator of this era. I really need to be known as the greatest innovator of this era in order to get everybody behind this Mars thing, because we're giving them the benefit of the doubt and not assigning any egotistical motive for this. This would be one of the few tiny strategies you could employ to get this done. And in this video, even though he goes through that whole, crypto might become, he actually says crypto might become the currency of Earth. It might become the currency of Earth, And in the past, I think he speculated that, some kind of crypto would probably be the currency, or could be the currency of Mars. He needs to get behind some crypto. Doge is the perfect one to get behind, because I don't know if he realized what a bubble he would create in Doge, but I think he knew he wanted to get behind some crypto, and getting behind Doge would be the best way to chip away at the legitimacy of crypto in general, because Doge doesn't have this all important disinflationary property, and it doesn't have smart contracts, and nobody is really working on technological development in Doge. Right? It's not going to get better. So if he could somehow use his Twitter superpowers, which he knows he has, if he could somehow get a bunch of his fan base behind Doge, I think subconsciously, at least, part of him, knew it would detract from the rest of the space. And, maybe there would even be a bubble in what in fact did happen. And then a bunch of people would ride that wave up, and it would crash. And yet again, crypto would be seen as the purely speculative asset and not the genius invention it is from Elon's only competitor as greatest innovator of this era. What's the silver lining I was talking about? So the silver lining is that we've seen this before. The 2017 ICO era was just as bad as this Doge bubble. It was just as bad. Conceptually, you could say the scale is larger this time, but conceptually it was just as bad, just as damaging to the legitimacy of crypto. We survived it. And what did the ICO bubble do? It brought a whole bunch of people into crypto. We are experiencing an avalanche of noobs right now. And that's okay. And they are going to get super sour when we experience a Doge crash. If that's what happens, a gigantic Doge crash, I think we all think that's probably going to happen. If that happens, these guys are going to be super sour, but they're going to be in crypto, just like after 2017. Huge number of sour noobs who rushed in, but they were in crypto already. That's the silver lining. I can't let you go without updating you on the latest Cardano news since I was gone all week. Charles, in his latest short update, I love it when he has short updates that last 20 minutes because they're going to be action-packed. Charles let us know we are going to get an update about Mithril this month. What is Mithril? We did a whole episode about it, so refer back to that episode if you want more detail. But Mithril works on principles similar to what's going on with Mina and bulletproofs, and will allow for trustless light wallets. That means you would not have to trust a central server. They could create a version of Daedalus that is a light wallet, would work for you as easily as Yoroi, and could be updated to a full node in cases where that is appropriate. These work on recursive snarks. ZK snarks are zero knowledge, succinct, non-interactive arguments of knowledge. Go back to the previous video if you'd like more detail on that. We also found out there's going to be a mid-month update on Plutus, and Charles hinted that Plutus integration is going really well. That's a pretty big hint, and I think we're going to be talking a whole lot about Plutus in the coming days and weeks. And with that, I will see you tomorrow.